This is the celebration of pride, the hedonistic celebration of pride.
Happy Pride Month. Just wanted to stop by and celebrate with you. Welcome back to the JP Reacts channel, my beautiful freedom-loving friend. This is where we like to call out the lies, hypocrisy, and corruption of tyrants and Satan, shine the light of awareness on woke absurdities, and highlight the amazing work of other freedom fighters because truth conquers. But every June, instead of doing like Truth Conquers, we do Pride Month. Yes, is it a day celebrating the military? No, it is a month celebrating people who self-identify with their sexual orientation or the imagination of what their gender is. Cool. I love freedom. Celebrate it if you want. And here I wanted to stop in and celebrate with you in our own way. I have a couple laughs and also do a little thinking. Near the end of the video, I'm going to show you a full clip of Jordan Peterson just on a masterful rainbow unicorn of wisdom where he's giving his perspective on Pride Month and maybe why it shouldn't be celebrated. Hey, his words, not mine. We're just doing free speech here. But first, let's start Pride Month off right by looking at some amusing things. Here you can see, of course, what we're used to, all companies during Pride Month. How do you do, fellow gays? I don't know why this says Pride Week. We do a whole month. By the way, I got my Pride flag, dusted it out of the closet. I actually blew my nose into it earlier today, filming another video. And here we see what it looks like when a man is trying to avoid gay stares. The internet's good for something, isn't it? Now, what could make Pride more popular? Bring the FBI into it. The FBI marched in the LA Pride Parade. It's like, whose bad idea is that? Let's try to bring more credibility and likability to what we're doing. What if we bring the most corrupt three-letter agency in the country into our parade? People are going to love it. I loved it for different reasons. Now, all does not go swimmingly when we're dealing with such an important force of nature as Pride Month. In Philadelphia, the initial day's parade, you gotta celebrate the whole month, but I guess you do a parade to kick it off. Pride Parade, got it. Of course that's gonna happen. But pro-Palestine protesters were blocking the Pride Parade. Aren't you guys the same thing? You're the Pride Parade. You're standing with Palestine because they told you to. And here we are standing with Palestine. What are you gonna do? It's kind of like if you had cancer and your cancer got cancer. It's like, how's that gonna work out? Well, let's take a quick look-ski. It's just, look how intense her face is beating her drums. I don't know if that's a mutilated scar on her chest or rainbow painted. Now, there's a lot to process here, my friend. No pride in genocide. And it's kind of like, of course, normally the LGBTQ group would be victimizing themselves for anybody who doesn't bow down to their rule of tyranny. But this is kind of like using their poison against them. No pride in genocide. So we're going to block you. If you try to block us from blocking you, you support genocide because it sort of rhymes. What a mess. What a mess. Ah, there we go. We got the masks on, as is typical with pro-Palestine protesters. We don't really ever want anybody to see it was us doing this. No pride in that. I like the guy had a bubble gun there. That's effective. Just cancer attacking cancer. But at that Philadelphia Pride Parade, the plot did thicken like a Pfizer blood clot because later that night, a brawl broke out. Now, normally I don't like watching violence unless it's consensual violence like the UFC, but this is kind of gruesome. And I think my biggest observation about this Pride brawl is the women were fighting like men and the men were fighting like women. Now, before we get to the video of Jordan Peterson riding his rainbow-colored unicorn of wisdom, talking about pride and sharing some well-nuanced perspectives, whether you agree with them or not, I do. Jordan Peterson gone on a little bit of a tirade against the Canadian government. Canada has much less of a government and much more of a LGBTQ activist as the head of the country. Justin Trudeau. So Jordan Peterson just posted this on Twitter. Meanwhile, in Justin Trudeau, Canada, and you have the Canadian PM tweeted this seizure-inducing Pride season, not Pride Month, Pride season graphic out. As festivities and events kick off, hashtag Pride season, we continue to stand with 2S LGBTQI, Two-Spirit people. I'm glad they have a lot of pride. Communities and allies and work toward building an inclusive future where everyone is free to be who they are and love who they love. Openly and proudly, hashtag Pride 2024, says the Canadian government that wants to imprison people for praying in public or reading the Bible in public. They're all about inclusivity because they said so. Just don't question it or look at their actions. Just believe what they say. So, Jordan Peterson continued on Twitter before we get to his video. He says this, "Dear Justin Trudeau and Liberal Party. The celebration of casual, hedonistic, self-centered sex is not the celebration of love. The celebration of casual, hedonistic, self-centered sex is not the celebration of love." Repeated it twice, made a point. Pride is not a festival of love. It's a festival of pride. That's why it's called Pride. I believe people when they say what they mean. And now it's a whole bloody season, not a parade, not a day, not a week, not a month, a season. Why? Because self-absorbed narcissists have no limits. The outer edge of no limits is where the real monsters live. A warning. Furthermore, Pride is not inclusive. It excludes everyone who is not part of the bloody Rainbow Brigade, and purposefully. It excludes everyone sensible enough to keep their private lives private. It's also a good point. Finally, the government has absolutely no business involving itself in any of this. None. This next line's really hilarious. Even Justin Trudeau's almost equally reprehensible father said, and so famously, there is no place for the state in the bedrooms of the nation. Enough bloody pride, enough pride in the banks, enough pride in the churches, enough rainbows on the streets. Enough of whatever the hell that flag purports to be. Who keeps designing and changing that demented rag anyway? Who decides that it's time for yet another one, even though it changed last month? Who decides where and when it flies and why? Some secret cabal of dog mask wearing S&M aficionados and moralists? And enough of that ever-extending idiot acronym that only propaganda insiders can even remember. LGBTETC, enough of that. Anyway, he goes on. We'll get back to this very inclusive discussion in just a second, but first, let me ask you a question. Did you ever contract the definitely not made in a lab virus? Or did you ever get jabbed because you thought it was a good thing to do at the time? Well, if so, have you spent much time worrying about spike protein, the very thing that's being implicated in a lot of these new health conditions that we're seeing unfold in real time? Well, if you have, now there is a solution to your worries. Spike Support Formula by the Wellness Company. Spike Support Formula is an all-natural formula researched and designed to dissolve and block spike protein in the bloodstream, the toxin that's being implicated in all these new health disorders. It's all thanks to Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Drew Pinsky, and the Chief Medical Board at the Wellness Company. It's a revolutionary, over-the-counter, gold standard daily supplement you can take to combat spike protein. With the Wellness Company's Spike Support Formula, you've got your daily supplement to get back to feeling your best and ease your worries. I take it every day because once upon a time I contracted the definitely not made in a lab virus. And you too can reclaim your health by going to twc.health/jpreacts and use the code JPReacts to save 15% off your order. That's twc.health/jpreacts. Now, back to the video.
Celebration of pride, the hedonistic celebration of pride. You know, we have Pride Month. Well, what are we celebrating? First of all, how about we don't celebrate pride? Pride's a cardinal sin. And you might say, well, they don't mean pride. They mean, you know, it's a group of oppressed people and now they're just finding their identity and they're getting some security in that identity. And so what they mean by pride is security in that identity. It's like the word's pride. That's the word that was chosen. So I don't care what the lies around that are. And it's pride in relationship, as far as I can tell, to nothing but hedonistic self-gratification. It's like your identity is going to be your sexual desire. That's your identity.
That's a big one. You're making your identity your sexual desire, or you're making your identity your gender, or you're making your identity your made-up gender. So many of the great life teachings empower people when they get you to realize that identifying with things that you're not, identifying with your roles, identifying with your thoughts, self-identifying with anything other than your true self, like your soul, it's always disempowering. If you think you are your job, if you think you are your role, if you think you are your thoughts, if you think you are your body, you think you are something that you're not, and that's inherently disempowering. Many great wisdom traditions that I've studied and learned from all have that as a common principle because it's empowering. Pride teaches the opposite. No. you should think that who you are is your gender. You should think who you are is your sexuality. You should identify with your sexuality. So I love this point from Jordan Peterson.
That's your identity, your sexual desire. So that's sexual desire is at the center of hedonism. So that means you've reduced your identity to the most immature and hedonistic part of you, the part that would exploit someone else for your own gratification, for example.
Kind of checks out.
Exploit you for your own gratification. And now that's your identity. And now that's what we celebrate. Yeah, no, that's a very bad idea. That's the worship of the golden calf. And that's what, in the Exodus story, for example, when Moses disappears, so he's the prophet of God, when the prophet of God disappears, the Israelites are left in the hands of Aaron. And Aaron's a political leader. And in no time flat, the political leader offers the slavish Israelites the worship of the golden calf. They're all drunk and dancing naked around the fire.
It kind of checks out in a fairly literal sense.
A way that makes them contemptible to their enemies. That's what it says in the biblical text. You don't have to be much of a genius to understand that Rachel Levine is not exactly striking fear in the heart of the Iranians. We're so damn stupid.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, I don't think Rachel Levine, I don't think he's striking fear into the hearts of our enemies. Of course, Biden's diversity hire, who is another white man. It's interesting how some diversity works. Hedonistic pride, you gotta love it. Hey, let me know what your thoughts are about the whole Pride Month celebration. Specifically, I'd be curious your take on Jordan Peterson's take. What do you like about that? What do you love about that? Or dislike? But let me know in the comments, because I love to hear what you think. With that said, I'll look forward to seeing you on our next video. Until then, happy Pride Month.